Hi everybody, thanks for checking into my channel. Today we're going into a little bit more depth on the process of buying a home, and I have a guest today whose services are extremely important. He's one of the vendors whose services can save you tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you Scott Leifer of Hawkeye Services. Hi Scott.
Hello Lance.
Thanks for coming on to our show.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So I kind of alluded to the fact that your services are extremely important. Just tell us a little bit briefly about what it is that you do and what your company does.
Sure. So we do oil tank sweeps. We scan properties to make sure there's no surprise underground oil tanks on the property for generally people that are purchasing homes, so that they're not exposed to the potential liability of a leaking oil tank issue.
Okay, so you basically go onto a person's property, somebody that is trying to buy a house, and you're hired by the buyer of the property.
Correct.
And you scan the property and the house itself to find out if there are oil tanks or any other kind of underground storage tanks, correct?
Correct, exactly. So generally I start on the interior of the home, look for evidence of oil service on the inside. Then I go to the outside, look for any obvious pipes that may indicate an oil tank.
Yeah.
And then I'll go out and scan generally the entire property with a metal detector to make sure there's no large metal objects that may potentially be an oil tank.
All right, perfect. So why is that so important? Some people they don't understand or may not understand why oil is such a potential hazard.
Sure. Well, just to go back a little bit, tanks were put in the ground starting in about the late 40s, early 50s. They were generally bare steel tanks, and over time they corrode. And with that said, they ultimately will leak. A leaking oil tank issue, on average, is about $10,000 to $20,000. But as you referenced earlier, it can certainly get into the hundreds of thousands based on how extensive the contamination issue is.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm protecting people from that full, vast array of potential liability.
Yeah. So you'll scan the property and then you'll let them know if you found anything and what it potentially is, right?
That's right.
Okay. So as an agent, once in a while I run into scenarios where the buyers that I'm working with don't necessarily feel like they want to do an oil tank sweep. The cost of the services that you provide are so nominal compared to what it can save somebody later on down the road if there was ever an issue. What are the most popular misconceptions when working with people that they have about oil tanks or any other underground storage tank in the ground?
Sure. So a lot of feedback I get from homeowners is, the seller already removed an oil tank from this property, so I don't need to do an oil tank sweep. That's not necessarily the case. There are circumstances where there are secondary tanks on properties, circumstances where there was another tank in the same area that nobody knew about. Also, I get clients that say, well, the seller did a tank sweep when they bought the house, so I don't need to do one.
Right.
That paperwork does not protect you. So the contractor that did that sweep may not have done a thorough job, they may have missed something, and then if that's the case and you just take that paperwork at face value, you have no latitude as far as protection, because it's not in your name.
Yeah, so basically because you're not the client who hired them to do that service, they're not going to cover you.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Okay. I've also heard this one. There's a tank in the ground, we know about it. However, it was abandoned and it was proper and they did it with permits and everything.
Right.
So we really don't need to worry about it because they had an inspector look at it and all that kind of stuff. But the tank is still in the ground.
Right.
How about that one?
Yeah, previously filled tanks is a big issue, and I do find a lot of them when I do this service. That 3 owners ago they abandoned the tank in place with sand or foam or some other material, and now it's nobody knew about it, and then I find it.
Yeah.
The issue is that ultimately there could have been an issue when they filled that tank that was missed. It's such a limited inspection when you're filling a tank, so there could have been holes, there could have been contamination that was missed. And now you're still inheriting that liability as the new buyer of that property.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the most interesting thing you've ever found in the ground?
Well, the coolest thing I found was a cannonball.
A cannonball?
Yeah, out of Morristown. That was really neat. But I found a lot of weird stuff. I also find a lot of stuff that's also important beyond just oil tanks.
Yeah.
Gasoline tanks, diesel tanks, septic tanks. Wells, potable wells that haven't been in use for 30 years.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, to me, your services are invaluable. If somebody wanted to find out a little bit more about you and your company and what it is that you do, or even hire you to do some of the work that you do, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure, they can give me a call on my cell, text me, email me, visit my website or Facebook.
Okay, so phone,
Hawkeye
text,
Services.
Hawkeye Services. They can give you a call, text you, email, Facebook, however.
Yep.
All right, and I'll put links to all of his social media, website, and his phone number in the show notes and everything. So thanks for coming out. I
Great.
really do appreciate it.
You got it, Lance.
And
Thank
I
you.
look forward to seeing you at our next property.
You got it.
Have a
Thanks,
great
man.
day.
You
Thanks.
too.